A big, tall, strong, left-handed pitcher who did wind up playing for the New York Yankees, the team that I was following at the time as a kid growing up. We welcome in sudden Sam McDowell. Hey, Sam, how are you?
Pretty good. And yourself, Steve?
I'm fine. Great to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Heard you with my friend Denise McAtee on Steppin' Out Radio, and I decided to give you a call because I think you got a great story, and I think with what's going on with the A-Rod situation and the steroid situation, your voice should be heard. First of all, why don't you tell the folks what you're doing right now for athletes and players?
Well, I help manage the Employee Assistance Program for Major League Baseball. That's the BAT program, the charity that takes care of anybody in a baseball family that has fallen on hard times after they have left the game, whether it's financial, psychological, emotional, drug and alcohol abuse. It doesn't matter. Whatever the problem is, it's my job to find the solution and to help them out.
And how did you come to get that? I mean, you obviously had problems in your own life, which led you to this position down the road?
Yeah. In fact, I got thrown out of baseball, to be quite frank with you, because of my alcoholism. And then once that I did eventually go back to school to try and find out what the heck was the problem, what was the reason, because I was a pretty good religious young man from a Catholic family that I thought was doing everything right, and here I am, an alcoholic. So I went back to school for 6 years and became a therapist, thinking that I'd burn all my bridges. So I decided to simply help teenagers out and help them by preventing the same possibility with them that happened to me. And I got called back into baseball by Bowie Kuhn, who, when we had the big drug problems during the 80s, had asked me to put together some programs to help prevent the major drug problems. So I've been back in baseball now as a therapist for 33 years, and I've been with the baseball assistance team as their consultant and counselor for 27 years from the beginning.
So he turned to you again because he knew of what you had gone through and what you had overcome. When did your alcoholism start?
Well, basically, if you know anything about alcoholism, I was born that way. There's not much you can do about it because of chemical changes that take place in the brain that's there just about from inception. But I didn't notice anything other than having an obsessive-compulsive personality because in the minor leagues or in high school or what have you, I never drank. I was simply obsessed with the opposite side, being a health nut, making sure I was taking the right vitamins and minerals and what have you. And I actually didn't even get started drinking anything until my second or third year in the major leagues. But I sure made up for it in a short period of time.
And that, of course, had its adverse effects on your career, correct?
Oh, yeah. As I said, I basically got thrown out. When I was with the Pittsburgh Pirates the last year, they made me a deal. If I picked up a drink, I was gone. And I was leading the Pittsburgh Pirates pitching staff in every category there was. And I went out and got drunk one night, and Joe O'Brien found out about it and said, "Sam, see you later." And that basically was the end of my career.
Okay, let's fast forward to the great work you're doing today and as it pertains to the situation in baseball today. It's a whole different scenario. It's not, I mean, I don't know, you could tell me how prevalent alcohol abuse and drug abuse is. I would doubt that that's a major problem in baseball. Maybe you could correct me, but certainly what we're looking at here are performance-enhancing drugs. How do you deal with that, or do you deal with that? And even if you don't, what do you think of the I won't call it an epidemic, but the problem that exists in sports and specifically in baseball today?
Well, to be quite frank with you, I'm not sure there's that much that can actually be done with the steroid problem, because as soon as you find antibodies where you can test for them, there's already new steroids out on the market that you can't test for. One of the major problems is that, and think of it this way, if you could have a glass of orange juice that had something in it for the next 7 days, that would turn your career around from being an average ball player hitting 5 to 10 home runs a year, where you all of a sudden are hitting 40 and 50 and 60 home runs a year, and your contract is going to be for $250 million for a 10-year contract. I'm not sure too many people wouldn't do that. I mean, in all my years in baseball, yes, I do know people that are totally honest and totally religious and what have you, and they would never even think about doing that, but they're very few and far between. So it's really a treacherous, enticing thing, knowing that the effects are going to be mostly positive right now, but 20 years from now, they're all going to be negative. And you already see and hear and read in the newspapers the suicides, the attempted suicides, the brain damage, and so forth that many individuals that play sports are involved with. Now, you also asked me about alcohol and drugs. Primarily, I would say that baseball has taken care of that situation mostly through education. I mean, when I played baseball, it was play hard, drink hard, and if you didn't do that, you didn't belong in the big leagues. But nowadays, getting drunk isn't funny anymore like it was at one time, and you're not considered a very big man if you can't socially drink, go out and get drunk. That's a no-no. Same way with most of your drugs. You still have the major problem with marijuana, where society keeps fighting itself, not realizing that it's a gateway drug.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. All right, Sam, stay by. We just want to tell people we're talking to Sam McDowell, former Major League pitcher, former six-time All-Star here on the Steve Malzberg Show, now working with Major League Baseball to educate players on drugs and drug abuse. And let me ask you this. We only have a few minutes remaining. The problem well, two things. The problem of greenies. There was a point there where amphetamines used to be in the clubhouse. They used to look like M&Ms, and players would take them. And now they've been, eliminated from the clubhouse and from use. And one of the results is that you're seeing it harder for older players to perform as well because they're naturally more tired and they don't have this amphetamine shot to pick them up. Am I correct?
Yes, you're very correct there. In fact, it started out with red juice that people used to get from Mexico. And you get yourself a big gallon jug of that before you start spring training, and now you had enough where you can take, a teaspoon or two full before each game, and it would pump you up unbelievable. And whether it was this liquid meth, but yes, for greenies, they were sitting on every trainer's counter and every training room because of ignorance. We just didn't know the danger that was involved, and they came out like candy. And of course, being an obsessive compulsive society in which we have to have more and more and more and more and better and better and better, then it escalated all the way to from the greenies up to as far as taking hypodermic shots of pure amphetamines and so on. But that's kind of been taken care of now. When I say kind of, you're going to find an exception around once in a while. But they test enough in the minor leagues and the major leagues where if that ever does happen, they're going to catch somebody.
Right.
And it means that guy's got a major problem, and they've got to force him into getting help.
Okay, let me ask you. I'm sorry to interrupt. We only got a couple of minutes, so I just want to ask you about a minute and a half. The penalty, the steroid situation, like you said, it's going to be impossible to stop, but the penalties handed down to the 12 or so, including A-Rods, what's your take on those?
Well, I think that's about the only thing that you can do is to take the uniform away from an individual, because you can't have a sport, a clean sport like baseball. You can't have the haves and the have-nots, the guys that are taking steroids, playing games against guys that are totally honest, totally clean, trying to fight naturally without God bore them. You can't have, the difference. You've got to stop it somehow, some way. And for right now, that's the only way you can do it is take the uniform away. And I think 50 games is very good for a first time. I think that 150 or 2 is good for a second time, and if there's ever a third time, it's see you later.
3 strikes, you're out. Hey, Sam, it's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you very much for your insight, and I appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. Take care.
Take care. Sam McDowell, ladies and gentlemen, who's doing such great work with Major League Baseball. Very honest. There's hardly any way you could stop, because when you got to ban growth hormone.